On KBLA, James Farr's on the mic, lifting up the people, keeping hope in sight. With Altadena spirit, he fights the good fight, speaking truth to power, shining the light. Flames try to break us, but we're standing tall. Lost our homes, but we ain't lost at all. Through the smoke and the ashes, we see the sun. Altadena's fight has just begun. Just begun. We'll rise again, we'll build it strong. Through the struggle, yes, we belong. Hand in hand, through dust and pain, Altadena's heart remains.
Live from Africatown, USA, Lamert Park, right here in the Crenshaw District. We're in Los Angeles. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Welcome to the conversation live, Altadena Rising. I'm James Farr, your host. This will be the show of record, and we're chronicling this Altadena Eaton Canyon fire for the nation. Over the next 52 weeks, we're going to be documenting. Let me say that again. Over the next 52 weeks, we're going to be documenting the roots, the resilience, the recovery, the rebuilding, the reunion. We got a whole lot to cover in the next 52 weeks, and I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you've allowed me into your homes, into your living rooms, in your cars, if you're listening on your apps. Thank you so much for allowing me in, and I want to invite you in to our conversations each week because we're doing this for you. As long as this Black Talk radio station is on the air, we're not going to forget Altadena. We're going to continue, and I'm going to say that over and over again. We're going to continue to document these stories, and we're going to let you know what's happening with the recovery of this devastating fire which took place on January 7th of this year. Let me tell you what we have coming up on today's program. Bottom half of the hour, I have the president of the Altadena Historical Society in the seat, Sister Veronica Jones. She's going to ground us in the bottom half of the hour as we kind of understand what the history is of this wonderful city, this wonderful town. But then in the first half of the hour, America's Black Attorney General, Ben Crump, is in the seat. Ben and I are going to have an explosive conversation. Ben's been on the ground. Ben is representing folks here in the community. I want to get his perspective. We want to bring you up to date and up to speed with everything that's happening. Make sure you stay with us. We're going to keep going. But let me tell you a little bit first about myself. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about the show. You know, the 300 episodes of the Conversation Live that I've done previously before I occupy this here seat, I've never really worried about who was watching. I didn't know if, the 10 or 80 followers that may read my columns in the LA Progressive were even paying attention. But then on that night, the fire happened. I got a call. And now I'm here with you this morning. Some of you in the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation will be familiar with me. Some of you have heard me on A More Perfect Union. Others have heard me on This Is Not a Drill. But my home here at KBLA has been with my big sister, my radio sisters, Dominique DePrima on First Things First, where I sometimes show up with Dominique as her favorite adversary. She hasn't kicked me out. She's kind of put me over to the side, and I'm looking forward to getting back in the chair with her, once or twice a month, just to keep you updated on what we're going to do. So we're not here to compare tragedies, but we are going to use our Black platform to ensure that the nation and the world hear firsthand the stories of the persons from Altadena. Every week we will be unapologetically Black. This station will bring you the latest updates. We'll also hear stories from those who are most impacted by this devastating fire. But we got to set it up. We got to give you some context. I know some of you in other parts of the country, you may not know the difference between Altadena, Palisades, Northern California, or even further south. But what happened here in this African-American enclave, which is located about 15 miles just to the north of downtown Los Angeles, has devastated a Black community where 80% of the Black folks who lived in this city were homeowners. Generational wealth, community, memories, all of these things have been burned to the ground in the blink of an eye. Millions of dollars in loss. That number is expected to jump up into the billions. But to understand what happened that night, I want to set it up with some context. I want to roll in a couple of clips just so you can hear what the conditions were on the ground. So, Simeon, go ahead and roll in my first clip, please.
Unfortunately, all the things came together for that perfect storm. 80 mile an hour plus winds, and certainly whatever it was that sparked this fire. And then suddenly we've got this overwhelming event that is absolutely just tragic in the way that it took over and destroyed homes, destroyed lives, and really changed our city and the surrounding cities as well. So it's really important to understand how quick and how fast this fire got out of control and went about its business of destroying what it destroyed.
Oh, God damn it. Please. No, I got you. Hey, bring it down. Now I got you, Charles. Oh, here's another chair. There you go.
And that's what some were having to deal with. But how did this fire start? Let's roll in this next clip, Simeon. Let's go ahead and roll in number 2.
Call him to wake him up. He wouldn't be alive to be on your program today, but he lost everything. I heard the doctor, the sister, tell her story. About 17 members of her family in 6 or 7 different households, all living in the same area. And pretty much all those houses burnt down, and they literally at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning were caravanning as a family out of Altadena. And it made me think about the historic nature of these Black neighborhoods in Altadena. It was moving for me to listen to these stories, these first account stories of these persons who've lost everything. What was it like for you sitting there next to all of them?
It was, beyond moving, Tavis. I mean, Dr. Eshel Williams, you're talking about a therapist. 6 of her family homes were destroyed, down to nothing. And I had the opportunity sitting next to her. She passed me her phone, and I was looking at the pictures. And something about seeing it on a personal phone where it took me to how it would feel to go home, and there's nothing left but one wooden board with your address, and everything else is in ashes, and your chimney, and that's it, nothing else left. 6 houses. The fact that in Altadena, this Black enclave in LA, 80% of Black families own their own homes.
That was the voice of Tavis Smiley and Dominic DePrima. But let's get into how the fire started, Simeon. Let's roll in this next clip.
It looks pretty clear that Southern California Edison is the cause of the fire. And if it caused the fire, then the other items are pretty much irrelevant, and they're just roadblocks being thrown up. And Southern California Edison has a history of being accused of wrongdoing. A federal lawsuit was just filed against them based on a prior fire with allegations that they covered up wrongdoing. So, Southern California Edison seems to be the cause of the fire.
And then we have a reaction from a community member. Let's roll that one in, Tim.
He ain't called me back. I'm going to get that guy. But he said he was going to give $22 million to Altadena. Guess what? That's a nip in the bucket. $22 million. $1 million, that's 22 homes. Most of our home, my home was worth $1.5 million. It's about $1 million of crackjack box. But I had it for 30 years. So Magic Johnson, the mayor, the governor, I am tired of them coming to our neighborhood, getting on TV, talking about the millions of dollars they got. Bring your ass down to Altadena. Come down there on my street and tell me those 25 houses that you have on your street, I'm going to invest in them, make it a pilot project, and bring us freaking back. So, I'm sorry. I got pressure for you. This is about our community, and I pressure you to bring it back.
And when we come forward, America's Black Attorney General, Ben Crump, is in the seat. We're going to have a critical conversation. We got a lot to talk about, and we're not blacking down. Only on KBLA Talk 1580, we got your black. And welcome forward. You're listening to the conversation live, Altadena Rising. I'm James Farr, your host, and we're chronicling the Altadena fire, the Eaton Canyon fire, which took place on January the 7th. This is the show of record, and I have the honor of joining us in just a second. Some refer to him as the Black Attorney General. I just call him Ben. Ben, are you there?
I'm here, James. It's an honor to be with you on your inaugural show, my brother.
Brother, I appreciate you carving out some time, but we're going to power through this thing real quick, Ben. I know you're busy and we on a clock, right? And so, but first I want to set this up right first, Ben. We're doing this show because we don't want Black Altadena to be forgotten. Tell us why it's important for black media to show up where we see mainstream may have forgotten about Altadena.
Now, James, it's critically important, especially with the climate going on in America now, where the president will come and visit the devastation of the wildfires and go to Palisades and Hollywood Hills, but didn't seem bothered that he not even come to Altadena, this historically black community that was created because of discrimination and racism. And so right now, more than ever, the only people we can count on is us to tell our stories, to uplift us, and to give us a voice. So I'm very honored that you and all my friends, Tavis, Dominique, you all continue to stay with us, even when it's not in vogue, even when, it's not the flavor of the month. You care about black people in this show, and now more than ever.
Well, we're not blacking down, Ben. We're going to be right here. I know you've been on the ground. You're representing families. You've been out here at least 4 or 5 times that I can count. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are your clients telling you?
I'm troublesome when I leave the greater California area, because around the rest of the United States, they refer to the LA wildfires and they say Palisades and Eden fire. And they don't say specifically Altadena. So we have to keep saying, no, Altadena was devastated just as bad as anybody else. And these black people homes should be valued with the same respect we give to the white people homes and the Asian people. We should not have a discount or a red light special just because our people homes got destroyed. And then I think, James, even worse, Zaire Calvin lost his sister, Evelyn McClendon, in the fire. We represent her. Trevor Kelly lost his mother, Earlene Kelly. And then you have Eric, Nickerson, who lost his father, Rodney Nickerson, whose father started Nickerson's Garden. And so we have so many people who we lost, not just property, but lost their loved ones. And all because, it was a lot of reasons, but because Con Energy wouldn't follow the safety rules.
Well, let's talk about that, Ben. Southern California Edison, we've seen video. It's circulating. It's been in the news, and it appears to be the impetus of the fire was up in the mountains on the power lines. Isn't there a law that utility companies are supposed to de-energize these lines?
Absolutely, James Farr. And, you've been covering so many of these legal matters with me and Brad and Carl and others that you sounded like a lawyer, brother. But you're absolutely right. That's why Attorney Ann Andrews and I filed the first wrongful death lawsuit against Southern California Thomas Edison Energy Company, Consolidated Energy Company, on the premise, not what we think happened, but what we saw, James. People saw the video. We have visual evidence, what they called in Shakespeare day ocular proof, the fact that that transformer ignited and then it exploded and that fire rolled down the hill. And Con Energy, if they followed the law that was passed in 2017 after the Malibu wildfires that said when the winds got past 60 miles per hour, these Santa Ana winds, that they were supposed to de-energize the power because it was foreseeable that tragedies could happen and there could be tragic loss. And they got the warning on January the 3rd, James Farr, that the Santa Ana winds had gotten up above 60 miles per hour. In fact, it was about 100 miles an hour based on the weather reports I know,
did
not turn it off.
I know because me and my family had to run as well, right? But we got notification. Did any of your clients get notification? And what was the responsibility of the county or first responders to let our people know on the west side of town about this disaster, this fire that was coming?
Exactly, James. The plot thickens. The fact that they didn't turn the energy off on January 3rd like they should, and then on January 7th, 4 days later, the fire devastated Altadena, and the fact that the county officials notify individuals in part of Altadena 7 hours before they notify the residents that we represent, predominantly black our section of Altadena. And I think Attorney Camilla Moore, who works for me, who has the reparations task force for the state, she was adamant that people on the other side of Altadena got their warning 7 hours before. And then it came out and it was confirmed that was indeed the case. So activists like Najee Ali and Cynic, we asked the clients, when do they get notified? And so we know that our clients have on their phones when they were notified. So it is true that they got notified 7 hours later. And so we have to investigate all of that to make sure that there's complete accountability so we can get to the truth of what happened. We can get to justice, not just partial justice, James, but full justice for our black people, not 3/5 justice.
I want to talk about that justice, though, Ben, because you said there's proof, right? And I want to talk about judgment proof, right? Is Southern California Edison judgment proof, and what does accountability look like? I understand that there possibly may be charges filed against Southern California Edison. In our next few minutes, let's wrap that up and kind of tell me what that means.
Yeah, the reality is this here. As a civil rights lawyer, trial lawyer, we have a right to hold people accountable for violation of the 7th Amendment when they have wronged somebody. Now, the government, the prosecutors, the district attorneys, and attorney generals, they have the authority to bring criminal charges. And, James, the fact that L.A. County now has joined in suing Con Edison for, being the proximate cause of the fires in Altadena is telling. But it's one thing to bring a civil suit. It's a whole nother thing to bring a criminal suit. And what your audience, this great audience who got tremendous power, have to call them out to say, we want accountability on every level, because the elected officials are the only ones who can bring criminal charges as we fight to get civil restitution and rebuild these homes and try to have accountability for the wrongful deaths. And many people still, James, to this day, are confused, they displaced, and they have not retained the law firm. And the one thing I will say, please don't go try to fight the insurance company alone.
Tell me about that, Ben, because I was at a town hall that I've been to several town halls that you and attorneys like Brad Gage and the Justice Coalition and LA lawyers have been doing. What are you hearing most? Because I'm hearing some nightmare stories about insurance, and we got about another minute and a half, Ben. Okay.
Yeah, so let me say quick, the insurance companies are not your friend. They are going to try to delay, and deny. They want to make sure they can give you pennies on the dollar, even if you've been paying your premiums. So you have to have a lawyer who's ready to go hold their feet to the fire. And so they're going to make you try to prove what was the contents in your house and all these things that seems to be so cumbersome. But let us help you. We have paralegals and so forth. Every time they ask for stuff, we go tit for tat. And then if they don't do right, we have to take them to court and show them that there's a heaven above and a hell below, because a lot of these good neighbors are not your good neighbors.
What's the first thing someone should do right now if they're just deciding? I know that today it's been 60 days since this fire, since this devastating event ravaged through my community, through our community. What's the first thing they should do? And I'll give you the last words for the next 60 seconds.
I think they should go to visit my law firm website at bencrump.com, or some lawyer. They need somebody to fight for them. And they need to desperately make sure that they are being notified of anything with FEMA to give relief. Make sure that we can get some donations to them. I heard earlier in your program, a lot of people aren't getting these donations, these hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're desperate, just trying, not talking about whether I'm going to get my house back. We're just trying to figure out a way to survive to next week. Well, let us help you. I'm going to be back on March 17th in Altadena, and I will be back again on April 6th, where we're going to have a major clothes giveaway and gift card giveaway, just trying to help brothers and sisters make it through. And I'm working with a lot of foundations and community activists and high-profile celebrities, because I keep calling everybody saying, let's don't forget Altadena. Just like I called and said, we got to fight and say George Floyd life matter, Breonna Taylor life matter, well, Altadena lives matter, and Altadena community matters.
Well, Ben, can we have you back on? Because there is so much more that we need to learn. There's so much more that we need to unpack. I'll give you the last few seconds, final 20 seconds. What do you want to leave us with?
Well, you certainly can have me on, James, because on my grave tomb, and I mean this, my motto is I'm an unapologetic defender for Black life and Black liberty and Black culture. Altadena represents all of that. Altadena, rise up.
That's Ben Crump, y'all. You're listening to KBLA Talk Radio 1580. Altadena rising is the topic of our conversation. Our phone lines are open, 800-920-1580. That's 800-920-1580. We want to hear from you on KBLA Talk 1580, unapologetically progressive.
This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Be heard. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Every time I turn around, it's black and white crime. We say that we're not crazy, but we're losing our mind. God put us on this earth so we can be of some help. But you can't help nobody if you can't help yourself. Are you listening, brother? Are you listening, sister?
KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm James Farr, your host. This program is a show of record, and we're chronicling for the nation the January 7th Altadena Eaton Canyon fire, which devastated a black community. First, I want to invite you to follow us on social media if you haven't, at all platforms, at KBLA across all platforms. You can follow me at James Farr, and if you haven't taken time to download our app, go into your app store and type in KBLA Talk 1580, and that's a sure shot way to join the conversation. The phones are also open, and we want to hear from you this hour. It's 800-920-1580. That's 800-920-1580. I'm so honored to have in the seat this morning a bit of an expert, I think is a good way to refer to her. She's been a lifelong resident of Altadena and also is the president of the Altadena Historical Society. And she's going to ground us in just some deep history, because I think folks don't know how black folks ended up in Altadena, how this enclave became what I'd like to consider a contemporary, or actually not even a contemporary, but a real-life Wakanda once you really get into that community and everything. But Sister Veronica Jones is in the seat. Veronica, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here. It's an
Let me get you closer to the microphone.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
I'm doing well. And thank you for having me here, James, and thank you for calling me an expert. I don't feel like I'm an expert on too much of anything. I just live and learn. So that gives you the authority to know about stuff.
See, that's what folks don't know. Folks in Altadena, Pasadena area are very humble, right? You know, they don't like to tout and brag about themselves, but you're not the president of the Altadena Historical Society by an accident. How'd you get involved with the Altadena Historical Society?
I got involved with the Altadena Historical Society because I was doing a program on my own, and I would partner with the Altadena Library called Hidden Histories. So I would go and research and find out the Black history, the Japanese history, the Latin history in our community, in our little area of Altadena. There was so much that was not documented or archived anywhere. And during COVID, I got approached by the Historical Society and said, hey, we're 90% white, 90-something% white. Can you help us become more diverse? Because we see that we have been missing things. And so I came on board as a board member, and very recently, less than a year and a half ago, I became the president. And we have a real focus on finding those hidden histories that are not archived there in Altadena.
Well, you know, we got a long runway to get through a whole lot of history over the next 52 weeks, but I don't think people understand how black folks actually ended up in Altadena. I mean, I did some research. Attorney Robert Grant shared some information with me. Black folks have been in Altadena since the 1800s.
Yeah, 1800s.
Tell me about that. Now, that's post Civil War, right? So that's
right.
In the Reconstruction
we're still
era.
in slavery, everything. We have black people in Altadena. We have Black Owens. The black history of Altadena is deeply entwined with the larger history of our African American migration to the West Coast. So we have blacks came and settled all over California, and probably one of the furthest and highest places you can get is Altadena, away from the South. So we had Robert Owens, who was an enslaved person who was able to buy his freedom and his family's freedom and move up into what we call the Meadows of Altadena, which is the top of the hill in Altadena. He moved there, became very rich. He cut down the lumber there, brought it down to the armies in L.A.
Now, when you say rich, like by today's standards, he was a multimillionaire.
He was a multimillionaire.
Okay.
People like to say he was a rich black man. I say he was a rich man because they weren't really a lot of rich people in the 1800s. You know, if you were rich, if you had something, you were in the minority. And he was a rich black man. He helped Biddy Mason stay in California. He was instrumental in not having her being sent back into slavery. We have deep roots in Altadena.
We hear Eaton, right? You know, we hear Eaton Canyon. Who is Eaton? I know he was a general, right? But can you tell us a little bit more about who Eaton was and how that area kind of got named?
Okay.
So Eaton, you know, I know that he acquired land.
Right. The Eaton and the Woodburys.
Right. Okay. And so these were, I guess you would call them aristocrats at that time, right?
Right. And they
very affluent, wealthy white folks
people,
who subjugated, you know, what we now call people of color, right?
Exactly. And they came to Altadena I guess there were a lot of orange fields and poppy fields. So they came to develop this town, which became a white town. It was an affluent white town with, you know, the one or two minorities that were there at the time. We even had the abolitionists, his son, Robert Owens, came to Altadena, which they make a big deal about him up there now, which I don't know what he really did other than come to Altadena. You know, he John Brown was his father. So
I've actually been to John Brown's home in Akron, Ohio one time. I was able to visit it just randomly driving by, but that's a whole another conversation.
Okay.
And so were black folks were subjugated at that point? Like what was the environment? What was the climate like? What were black people doing in Altadena in that time? And we'll get a little bit more contemporary into the 20th century after that.
Okay, so blacks were trying to make a living, trying to find a place in a community where they felt welcome. It was welcoming. Altadena was welcoming as long as you stayed on your side. You know, you didn't try to integrate. You didn't try to make trouble, just like most places.
So when you say sides, right? Like so I want to paint this picture for the audience. They don't know what Lake Avenue is. I want to paint it for the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation, right? They don't understand. What they would know is redlining, right? Like how cities are divided.
That's what we call it, redlining.
So here it's Lake Avenue, which goes all the way up to the mountain, and the east side, which is where the Eaton Canyon is, and the fire started, and then pushed west. So why were black folks over in this west side of Altadena?
Well, you said it. It was redlining. You were allowed to live on the west side. We were allowed to make a comfortable community for ourselves on the west side. Realtors. We have in our archives, we have a letter from the Chamber of Commerce saying not to sell property to blacks east of Lake. Lake is the most, and you can see the difference even today, even though officially there is no redlining. You see the difference in things that make your life just better on a daily basis. There's more trees on the east side. On the west side, we have very few trees. It's a very
streets are more
narrow.
Streets
are narrow.
Yeah.
We have more wires hanging over our heads and connecting us to electricity and telephones than the other side. It's a obvious difference, and it started back when Altadena started. There was what I call, they like to say, underserved. It's a planned underserved, and it's planned and plotted out.
And that's something we're gonna get to, because I mean, not today, right?
Okay.
I mean, because when we look at the topography, the climate, wind tunnels, I mean, there is a more scientific reason into why the west side of town was carved off as less desirable, or perhaps maybe something that others didn't want to continue to develop. Let's go forward a little bit into the 20th century, right? You know, black folks start moving in mass, right? Kind of post World War II, and they came
the 60s
from the South,
and 70s. They're
70s.
coming in. They're moving in. Altadena is getting pretty integrated as far as the numbers go. Blacks at one time was 40% of Altadena. It was 40%, even though we were redlined to the west side. It was a community where blacks could thrive, and it's Altadena is kind of an eclectic kind of town. Artists, I call them old hippies. We have old and young hippies, and very accepting of artists and just the creative community.
I mean, yeah, Charles White. I mean, there's such a deep, rich history of art, right? And artistry. I mean, some describe it as like this bohemian kind of culture.
It's definitely a bohemian culture.
I guess if there's a black
no
hippie
sidewalks.
thing,
yeah, exactly. Black hippies could be there. We have it's just a different kind of feel. I always think my husband is from the South. He came from the South. It was easy to get him to move to Altadena because Altadena has that Southern feel. It doesn't have the big city feel.
I mean, everybody's so connected, though, right? I mean,
everybody.
What makes that part of Altadena so special? Because I know people that may not know somebody else, but then I become the conduit, and you kind of exist like that. Why are everybody so?
One reason is it's not a transient town. You come, you put in roots, and you stay there. You live down the street from your cousin. You live across the way from your brother's friend. You go to the bank and you may not know the person in the bank, but you know their children. It's a town, and we have just that small town connection where I see you, even though I don't live next door to you. I know I'm going to see you one time or another. Everybody kind of connects. You go to the same parks. We have we go to Pasadena schools, but there's 3 high schools. And when I grew up, Blair was the newest high school, so there was only 2 high schools. So you grow up with these people and you stay there. I would say when we moved on our block, the average person lived on our block it was 30 years. We were the newbies.
Can you stay with us? Because I want to continue the conversation a little bit more.
Yes, sure. Of course.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host. We're going to continue this conversation when we come forward. We're going to be unapologetically progressive. We got your black, and we're not backing down.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Be heard. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome forward. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr. We're having conversation about the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. This program is going to be the show of record, and we're chronicling this devastating disaster for the nation. My guest this morning has been, we had Ben Crump on a little bit earlier. Now we have Veronica Jones, who is with the Altadena Historical Society. Let me give some quick updates real quick, Veronica, and then we'll let you get the quick last word. Here's some information you need to know. FEMA financial assistance deadline is on Monday, March 10th. Again, that's FEMA financial assistance deadline is Monday, March 10th. Make sure you go to their website, and also the SBA disaster loans for physical damage also is on the March 10th. And then the deadline has been extended for the LA Regional Small Business Relief Fund. That is on March 12th. So that's just some updates. We want to make sure that as we do this program that we're giving you the latest and updated information. But Veronica, any last thing you want to leave folks with? Like, how can they get in touch with you? How can they support the Altadena Historical Society?
Okay, just go to our website, altadenahistoricalsociety.org. You can support us. We are trying to get back into our offices that were not burned, but were affected by the fire. And we want to continue to do our research and document the history of blacks in Altadena.
Okay. So we're going to have you back, right?
Okay,
you
yes.
Promise you're going to come back?
I promise I'll come back.
All right. When we come forward, we have more for you on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about.
This is LA's home for Progressive Talk Radio. Be heard. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome forward. You're listening to the Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm James Farr. I'm your host. And man, this thing went by faster than what I was expecting. I hope you've enjoyed sitting with us. And I really appreciate you allowing me into your living room, your garage, wherever you are, tuning into this program. We're going to be doing this for the next now 51 weeks. This is going to be the show of record where we're chronicling this for the nation. But every time I close out this show, I'm not going to sit and talk to you. We've talked for an hour, so I thought I'd do something that's a little bit different. You know, it's a Saturday slap. You know, I wanted to hear a song that kind of really speaks for us. This song really resonates with us, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it on the other side.
Fires roar through our sacred ground. Homes of heritage burn down. Whispers of history caught in the flames. Generations lost, but not the names. Ashes rise, but so do we. Our roots run deeper than the tallest tree. Altadena, Altadena. Altadena standing strong with a raised fist. Fire burned our homes, but we still exist. Bound by love, we'll always resist. Altadena, Altadena. Altadena, from the ashes will persist. Oh, speculators circle their greed in sight, but we stand guard, prepared to fight. Elders' wisdom fuels our flame. Their sacrifice will not be in vain. Altadena stands through storm and fire, a testament to unyielding desire. Altadena, Altadena. Altadena standing strong with a raised fist. Fire burned our homes, but we still exist. Bound by love, we'll always resist. Altadena, Altadena. Altadena, from the ashes will persist. Altadena, Altadena.
Altadena, Altadena, standing strong. Altadena will rise. This is KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Conversation Live, Altadena Rising. I'm your host, James Farr. Join me every Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's every Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. When we come forward, Angela Roddick Wright is here